Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day, and it is an amazing Sunday, baby. And it's great to be with you on this lovely final Sunday before the election. The clock is ticking away. Here's what it looks like. Over from 270 to win. Here's the clock ticking away. Woo! All right, going down pretty quickly. 1 day, 14 hours, 58 minutes and change before the 2024 election is upon us. Hopefully your ballots are in, or you have a rock solid plan for election day if you're voting in person, because the people I'm talking to are saying that they are running into lines 45 minutes here and there, especially in Arizona. I've seen it in Pennsylvania, and there are reports elsewhere. So turnout is massive, monstrous. So get out there, baby, and get those ballots in. We are keeping this energy revved up throughout the election. And so on election night, we'll be streaming. We'll go live at our normal time, which will be a new time because of daylight savings time changes. So about 5 Eastern is when we'll go live election night, and we'll be just burning through the night until we emerge victorious. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for subscribing and joining us as we go through all of that, and inviting your friends and fam over here, because we're going to be checking in with all of the latest news on X, on the major websites, right? The major reporting sites like the New York Times and the major reporters. And then we'll also see what the cable news networks have to say. So we'll be all over the place, and we'll have the latest on election night. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for joining us as we go through that. Now today, the reason we're here is because our president is kicking butt out there. He is just going all over the country, continuing rally after rally. And so we figured, hey, man, we can do the same and get out here and talk about the lawfare that is currently underway. And so a preview of what's coming up today. You may have seen this story that the DOJ is sending out election monitors. They dropped this yesterday, but this is also now, or I'm sorry, 2 days ago. But the state governments have responded, and the state governments of Texas and Florida are saying, no, you're not sending your monitors into our locations. And what's fun about this is they're going to 27 states. So the feds are, deploying themselves out there. And there are a bunch of swing states that people are noticing. Places like Georgia, Arizona, very curious. They're going to send people to Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania. Oh, well, Texas doesn't want them. Neither does Florida. And so we'll go through that, because they sent some letters back in, and they were located here. You can see the state of Texas says you're not coming into our state, as did the Florida. Well, that's an old letter. All right, so it was Florida also sent that, but that's an old letter from Florida. So anyways, we've got that. We'll talk about Bill Maher was also on with Jamie Raskin, and Raskin was saying that if the election is stolen, they're not going to accept it. We go, duh, really? That's exactly what Trump said. All right, so that's been the point that we've been trying to make for a long time. Rigged elections that are rigged by the FBI and the CIA are not legitimate, and we should be able to have conversations about that. And so now apparently he's on our team. Welcome aboard, Raskin. We'll talk about that. Then Arizona had a victory. The Secretary of State, as we know, there's this glitch that happened at our MVD, which is ridiculous. And I found this great video from ABC 15 here in Arizona, and they walked us through this. And I didn't know this, but apparently this was a problem way before this cycle. It was back in 2016, and I think even before that, like this glitch. And there was this big bucket of votes that they found, about 100,000 votes, and then another 100,000 votes. It's about 5% of our electorate is in this bucket of votes that they just discovered, and it's glitch after glitch. It's crazy. Leaky Jenna Griswold glitched all over the internet with her passwords. Oh, and that's, yeah. So anyways, published passwords on the internet. And that was a pretty big glitch. Okay. I don't know how that happened, how they uploaded an Excel spreadsheet, but it was a glitch for sure. Then there was the Dominion glitch with the disability polling devices that they have in Michigan, and then they needed to go out and fix those glitches as well. We had a glitch in Arizona with MVD citizenship checks that evidently never happened for about a decade, and the list goes on and on. Wisconsin, there were labeling glitches, and the problems are just continuing on and on. And so you can see this was an order that came out from the judge, and the judge said, yeah, you got to give over the names of everybody who's in that giant bucket of people that we don't know their citizenship status, because it's pretty important to know who's voting in our election. So a good order for the Republicans in Arizona, and we're happy about that one. Now, we'll also do an update on the Arizona fob situation. You remember the alleged theft of a key fob that would have given people access into the electoral systems. And when you combine this with another story, we've got leaky Jenna Griswold and her leaked passwords. She said, well, you still wouldn't have access. And you say, okay, well, maybe we only know, in Colorado, we only know one piece of the puzzle. We only know that the passwords were leaked. In Arizona, we know that a key fob was allegedly stolen. So, okay, it's like one half over here, the other half over here. In Arizona, we caught the key fob. In Colorado, they caught the passwords. But in Colorado, did they not catch the key fob that was also there? Or in Arizona, did they not catch the passwords here? You see what I'm saying? So the question is, what's happening? Is there an operation that maybe cross-pollinates across the states? Well, looks like there is. Carolyn Wren, who's been doing some awesome reporting on this, is the person who dug into this. Remember that Field and Media Corps is a subsidiary of Field Corps, which is an Arizona-based organization. This was responsible for the fraud, allegedly, in Pennsylvania. Then they looked up the guy who allegedly stole the key fob, Walter Ringfield Jr., and guess where he worked when he was in Arizona, allegedly stealing key fobs and collecting ballot signatures? He was working for Fieldworks, LLC. Fieldworks. Now, is that different than Field Corps? We'll have to see. Fieldworks is another maybe subsidiary. We'll have to see. So we'll go through that because we'll do an update on his case as well. You can see I looked it up. It is Fieldworks LLC. Is it another subsidiary? Have to look into it. But this was the report, and you saw that Field and Media Corps in Arizona was an Arizona-based organization. Now there's also more reporting on him. Actually, I wanted to go back and just show you what the charges were on this one, because it makes a little bit more sense now that we know that there is also a password attack vector. And here was his direct complaint and the criminal charges for the burglary and the indictment. These are a little older, but I just wanted to bring those back up for posterity's sake. And then in Arizona, we're going to have our federal election monitors as well. So we'll go through all of that, get an update on the fob stuff in Arizona before we turn our attention over to Georgia, because yesterday there was a lot cooking. You can see this has got 1.9 million views, but apparently they were collecting ballots. They were going to have special weekend observation areas or weekend collections. And what Georgia election officials said, you can see this is out of FultonCountyGeorgia.gov from Catherine Glenn, from somebody over there in Fulton. She sent this letter to everybody in Fulton, FultonCounty.gov.gov.gov.gov, says, "Good morning, team. There are no watchers approved for the ballot drop-off. Do not let them in the building. If they want to observe from the parking lot, you can't stop that, but don't let them in the building. Have your security enforce it. Hashtag, I love my team. Heart." Keep them out. Keep them out. Well, there's a big kerfuffle over this and a back and forth. GOP chairman Michael Whatley came out and he says, look, man, I'm not appreciating what they're doing in Fulton County, throwing our observers out there. And even Raffensperger is confirming this is happening. All right. So here is Raffensperger, the government official, who said, "We're pleased that Fulton County is now going to allow monitors in." Okay. Yeah. Fulton County, Fannyland, disaster. It's like a scene out of Mad Max. You got to be careful. You got to, they'll throw your observers right out into the streets, man. And then the Secretary of State, who told us that Fulton County's incredible, is now coming out and saying, wait, all eyes are on us. And they're not really acting in the spirit of the law, obviously. Welcome aboard, Brad Raffensperger. So we've got updates from Josh McCoon, the Georgia Republican Party chairperson in Georgia. We see that they're sending the election monitors into a bunch of the swing counties there in Georgia to monitor the elections and probably collude with Fannie. And the Republican Party has announced that they're filing a lawsuit, and we're waiting for updates on that. So we'll keep our eye on that restraining order. But our friend Phil Holloway and somebody from Locals, I believe, also was explaining that they're getting messages about text messages in Georgia about working for Kamala and getting $700 if you go vote for her. So we've got some Georgia updates. Raffensperger is confirmed to be behind that election defense fund. And so we just got a bunch of stuff. Before we get into Peanut, the executed squirrel murdered by New York's useless government because they've got nothing better to do than to break into people's homes through a search warrant. Yeah, right. And then abscond with their animals who are not harming anybody anywhere. In fact, we're doing the opposite, bringing joy to millions. Broke in and murdered them because they're just evil, demonic, psychopathic lunatics who've got nothing better to do. So we'll talk about it. So we've got a bunch of stuff queued up on this, including an interview with the people who had their animals seized and murdered. We've got more reaction to this because people are saying, wait a minute, is this going to be the squirrel that saves America? Are people going to wake up and go, wait a minute. New York broke into someone's house. The government broke into someone's house and killed their animals. Yeah, they did. A squirrel. Yeah. Why? Why'd they do that? Was the squirrel vicious, ripping people's jugulars out of their throats? No. Because they said he didn't have a license. Oh. He didn't have a license, and there could be rabies. And so they'd rather bring in, about 100,000 illegal aliens, and not focus on that at all, but rather focus on one illegal squirrel. Okay, so we'll go through it because people were just going hog wild last night. Memes all over the place. Let's see what we've got. Had a bunch of stuff queued up. Here it is, right? This is the squirrel that's going to save America. And that was just one meme. That was from Based Mike Lee, a senator. And there were several others. In fact, let's see. Do we have any more of these queued up? We're going to come back to these, obviously. But if you have any good memes, well, then you can share those. We'll come back and we'll go through a bunch of those at the end. But there's just so many of them. They're all loading right now. Okay, so we got some good stuff to get to. So justice for Peanut. Get out there and vote. If you haven't voted yet, vote for Peanut. Peanut wants you to vote for smaller government and more liberty. All right, so my friends, we got some great stuff queued up today. Before we jump into it, quick plug for 2A Republic and our amazing shirts from these amazing people. Of course, you and I, we believe in the Second Amendment. We believe it's black and white, and the designs from 2A Republic reflect that same belief. Bunch of great gear over here. Shall not be infringed is a clear statement, not a loose suggestion. These guys are based in Arizona. These shirts are made in the USA. And so you might have a 2A fanatic. There's a bunch of good stuff here if you go over to their website, linked in the description below. Bunch of cool stuff over here. For 2A fanatics, you can see it's all made in the USA. Great holiday gifts. They come in an awesome box. Your friends, your family will love it. All profits from the Trump shirts are going to the Elon pack, and holidays are right around the season. So grab a shirt. They're linked in the description. And they're great shirts. I've been wearing them, and I'll be wearing the Trump shirt all election night from our friends over there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So check those out. They're good dudes. We appreciate it. You grabbing a shirt and supporting our work here as well. Okay, so let's get to it because it is election time. The Biden-Harris DOJ launches election monitors to all of the various swing states that are important this election cycle. And we'll go through the list, but we'll also see that some states are responding, saying you're not allowed in our jurisdiction. So get out. The DOJ published this. They said, we're monitoring 27 states for compliance with federal voting laws. Civil Rights Division staff are going to be available to receive nationwide reports throughout Election Day. Why? So they can make an argument that some states should be invalidated or something. Now, there are election monitors that go out regularly, and we have questions about this DOJ that has become more and more corrupted by the day, and what they're going to be monitoring, and more specifically, what they're going to be causing. But they publish this on their .gov website. You can see here are the states where they will be. Might be in a neighborhood near you. There's a list of all of them. We won't read them all, but we'll just talk about the states. 86 jurisdictions in 27 states. The feds coming in for the November 5th election. The DOJ enforces voting rights that protect the rights of all eligible citizens and even non-citizens. I mean, remember, this DOJ was fighting tooth and nail against Virginia, the state of Virginia, to put non-citizens back on the roll. And they were almost successful until the Supreme Court came in and told them to cut it out. The department regularly deploys its staff to monitor these things. And so they're going to be in Alaska. What's up? Arizona, they're all over the place. Maricopa County's the big one. California, they go to one county in California because they're like, well, we know we're going to win everything in California, but we should probably just send somebody over there, right? So he's like, well, my parents live in San Joaquin County. He's like, okay, fine, you can go. All right, so they're also going to be in Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, others. We got Georgia, Fulton County. They're going to be hanging out with Nathan Wade in Fannyland. They've got Kentucky, Massachusetts is on the list. We got Michigan, several locations there, including Detroit. Maryland is on the list. Bunch of places in Michigan. Looks like 6 stops in Michigan. Pretty important state for them. So they'll be there. Minnesota, 3 spots. Mississippi, 3 spots. Missouri, Montana, 3 spots in North Carolina. They're in New Jersey, New Mexico, 1 stop in Nevada, Queens, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Dakota. Texas, they were scheduled for a bunch of places in Texas, but Texas is saying, not welcome. 8 locations in Texas, and we're going to take a look at a letter from their folks that said no. Utah, Virginia, Wisconsin, 4 stops in Wisconsin, another critical state. They say, okay, monitors are going to have a bunch of personnel and federal observers from the Office of Personnel Management enforcing various civil provisions, and they're going to be overseeing the elections. They're going to be available all day to receive questions and complaints. So that was my question. What are they doing there? Receive questions and complaints, and really acting as, I would say, muscle for anyone who needs it. Well, you're not allowed to ask for ID on that one. Nope, not on that one. Nope. Individuals and questions or complaints may be directed over here, and so they'll be there. Now, you can see this is from the state of Texas. They said, no, thank you. We don't want you here. Sent this right back from Jane Nelson, the Secretary of State. She says, okay, hey, Jasmine Richardson, and Jasmine with the MYN, says, Deputy Chief, dear Miss Richardson, Secretary of State from the great state of Texas, says the following. Says, okay, dear Mrs. Richardson, earlier today, the Office of Texas Secretary of State learned of a press release issued by the DOJ indicating that the department plans to, quote, monitor compliance with federal voting rights in 86 jurisdictions in 27 states coming up on Tuesday. The press release stated that the Justice Department would be sending election monitors to 8 Texas counties, Atacosa, and so on. Now, Texas law is clear, okay? Justice Department monitors are not permitted inside a polling place where ballots are being cast, or a central counting station where ballots are being counted. Thank you very much. As to the polling place, Section 61.001 of the Texas Election Code identifies those persons who may be lawfully present. And guess what? Federal inspectors are not on the list. Nor are federal inspectors specified in the list of persons permitted in the central counting station while ballots are being counted. Rest assured that Texas has robust processes and procedures in place to ensure that eligible voters may participate in a free and fair election. Sincerely, your friend, Jane Nelson, Secretary of State from the great state of Texas. Don't come and participate and monitor our business. Now, they're not alone. Other states are also upset about this. You can see Republican leaders in some states are denying them entry. Oh, the DOJ's monitors are facing a new hurdle. Republicans not happy about it. Now, they say while they have a legal right to request access, I'm sure they do. I guess anybody has a legal right to request access, but it can be denied. Inflamed partisanship, they say from the Washington Post. Man, I hope Jeff Bezos really cleans house over here. Inflamed partisanship and ideological extremism, they say, has contributed to greater resistance to these activities in GOP-controlled states. Okay, who's inflaming the partisanship? You think it's maybe Jocelyn Benson, who is cutting videos with Hillary Clinton? You think maybe it's Jenna Griswold, who worked her butt off to try to keep Trump off the ballots, or Shenna Bellows in Maine, who confirmed that, or Chris Mays in Arizona, who's threatening Trump for making an obvious point about Liz Cheney wanting to send other people's kids to die? Who do you think's inflaming ideological extremism? Those lunatics who are trying to keep Trump from being even a participant? Yeah, that's who we're talking about. Republican leaders in Missouri and Florida, in addition to Texas, which flatly banned federal monitors in the 2022 midterm elections, said in recent interviews, yeah, our positions haven't changed. Justice officials are going to be rebuffed again if they come into our states. State of Missouri Secretary Jay Ashcroft accused the DOJ of using monitors to punish conservative states that have tightened voting ID laws and adopted policies of the Biden administration. Drawing from a state law that does not specifically list federal monitors as allowed to enter, he says, no, they're overstepping their authority. This certainly has become politicized, he says. Oh yeah, whose father, John Ashcroft, led the DOJ as the Attorney General under Bush. He said, quote, the Department of Justice lied when they came in and used pretenses to try to bully their way in when they knew what they were doing was not legal. In fact, in 2022, federal authorities sought access to polling sites in Missouri, home of the state capital of Jefferson City. They cited complaints saying the county lacked adequate voting machines for disabled people. Ashcroft rejected those complaints, says, no, it's not. Said federal monitors who showed up on election day, stay outside. You're not welcome in here. In Florida, we got Secretary of State Cord Byrd. He said justice officials in 2022 failed to provide a valid reason for entering in Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach, prompting him and Ron to rebuff their requests. Get out. A spokesperson for Byrd's office said that this month the state law does not explicitly permit them to enter. Now, Justice Department officials whining, they declined to comment. We have to protect our civil rights. What? Of illegal immigrants? The agency typically discloses the full list of jurisdictions, and they've done that now. The department has long monitored elections, they said. We will continue to use every tool at our disposal to enforce federal voting laws and ensure that all eligible votes have their votes counted. Yeah, you're the same people who wanted Virginia to put non-citizens back on. You almost got it, too, if it wasn't for the meddling Supreme Court. Former Justice Department officials said Republicans are attempting to cast doubt on what has, for decades, been considered a nonpartisan approach. Yeah, a lot of things had been considered nonpartisan for decades. Some people might say centuries, because, we haven't had political prosecutions ever until this year, 2023, rather. This cycle. For decades, yeah, they shattered a bunch of precedent. Now we don't trust them. It has been nonpartisan until the FBI started creating Russian collusion hoaxes and then creating insurrections they blame Trump for, and then creating fake criminal charges using illegitimate prosecutors stealing $36 million from the federal treasury. And then we're nonpartisan. Get out of here. Do you guys hear yourselves? You might as well put on a clown nose, okay? Nonpartisan approach from the DOJ. Put on your clown nose and shoes. Monitors, or you're already wearing those. Monitors aim to be as unobtrusive as possible. Bradley Hurd, a voting rights lawyer at the Justice Department, said attempts to discredit the federal monitors are part of a troubling trend. Yeah, the whole department is a troubling trend. The only troubling trend I see is the DOJ, to quote Joe Biden. It's a cynical view, or to take a feather out of his cap. It's a cynical view that kind of goes along with election denialism. You mean like Jamie Raskin did, as we'll see here in a second? Since the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the DOJ has dispatched government officials into polling sites. We don't want the feds in our state business. Get out. The monitors visits dozens of jurisdictions selected on factors that include requests from local officials. Yeah, I'm sure. Fannie Willis is probably sending a bunch of notices in. In 2022, they visited 64 jurisdictions, and that was an increase of about 45% when the Trump administration dispatched 44 to 18 states, right? So now you can see how it's kind of accelerated pretty dramatically. 44 to 64 to, what was the number this time? 89 something? Now, that year, most of the federal monitors remained outside the polling sites due to coronavirus. Okay, so Trump's people weren't even in there at all. Yeah, amazing. So everybody was thrown out. The DOJ wasn't monitoring anything, even if it was Trump's DOJ. Now, you guys have to wait outside. After the COVID. Yeah, COVID. So Fannie Willis can do cartwheels with Nathan Wade in there. Maybe. After the election, outgoing President Donald Trump falsely claimed to have defeated Joe. Well, I mean, you guys stole it from him and gave Joe Biden the presidency. So, I mean, he is the president, obviously, but the election was stolen. Now, 2 weeks ago, Justice Department officials said that they would monitor various places like, voter intimidation. Wow. They got complaints. This is why they're dispatching people. They got complaints about voter intimidation related to social media messages in Portage, Ohio, urging residents to write down the addresses of people displaying yard signs or something. So they're going to go there and investigate that. Okay. In Arkansas, in various places, states are saying, we don't want you. Don't come. Thanks for nothing. And so you can see Texas sent a letter, said, get out. We've got this report in Georgia on what they're saying is happening there.
This morning, the U.S. Department of Justice says it's sending election monitors to 86 counties in 27 states, including several here in Georgia. The election monitors will be here on Tuesday to ensure the integrity of the general election. This will be a 49% increase in the number of monitors they sent here for the 2020 election, and the most they have sent in 20 years. All 7 of the contested swing states are on this list, along with a mix of dominantly blue and red states. Here in Georgia, DOJ election monitors will be in Cobb, DeKalb, Fulton, Gwinnett, and the Macon-Bibb counties.
All right, so everywhere in Georgia, and Georgia's the home of a bunch of problems last cycle. They stopped counting ballots.
Like I said, hope you had a good weekend. What we want to do right now.
And they stopped counting ballots overnight. They had that water main break in the State Farm Arena in Fulton County. And we know Fulton County is filled with shenanigans because Fannie Willis is in charge over there. And so we'll be asking a lot of questions like, well, what if it's not legitimate? What if there's fraud? What if there's a discovery of a bunch of non-citizens voting, or fraudulent registrations, or problematic software, or legitimate security breaches, or passwords that were accessed, and so on and so forth? Well, we're going to have a problem with that. We don't just sit around and accept the results of a rigged election and just say, oh, no, that's perfect. There should be no consequences or investigation for that because you said so. That's not how this works. We're not slaves that listen to our federal government without a questioning eye. We're allowed to question them and not believe them. That's part of being an American. It's a beautiful thing. But Raskin is now apparently agreeing with us. He's joining our side, the same side we've been on for ages now. Now he's getting nervous that they might lose the election. And so now he's going to say, well, if it's rigged, just like it was in 2020 when the CIA rigged it, when the FBI rigged it, when the mainstream media rigged it, what is going to happen this time, Raskin says the following.
We will support a free and fair election. No, we're not going to allow them to steal it in the states or steal it at the Department of Justice or steal it with any other election official in the country. If it's a free and fair election, we will do what we've always done. We will honor it.
So, finally.
Okay. That's like the same thing we've been saying forever. Same thing Trump said. 2020 was not a free and fair election. They changed the rules based on COVID. We're watching them do it again. They delayed ballot collection deadlines. They accepted more UOCAVA ballots. They waived signature requirements. They did a bunch of things in a whole slew of different states. We covered it, made many videos about it. That's not free and fair. Trump was protesting that, going through the lawful mechanisms in order to do that, including making his claims through the lawful mechanisms like you do in any legal proceeding. You always make your claims. We cover cases here all the time. Someone files a lawsuit. Then several of their claims succeed. Several other of their claims don't succeed. Those claims that don't succeed don't result in them being charged with crimes and having their homes raided and being allegedly behind an insurrection and those types of things. You're allowed to present your claims. Trump was filing his claims, and he had his alternate electors that had been used historically to do the same. And then there was a riot that was instigated, in my opinion, by federal agents because the security was lapsed. And it was enabled by Nancy Pelosi, guys like Ray Epps who were instigating it, getting slaps on the wrist. Many other people were there, not charged, even though they were at the front lines, barreling their way in. Stephen Sun wrote a whole book about the security failures. Trump wanted to have National Guard there to the tune of 10,000 people. Mayor Muriel Bowser rejected it. Trump made an order to Christopher Miller, the acting Secretary of Defense, and to Mark Milley, the DOD, and said, secure it. They said, we got it. Secured. Wasn't Trump's responsibility to secure the building. People were lecturing him, saying, wait a minute, if we give him the power to stand up the National Guard, then he's going to be a dictator. Then they blame him for that because he gave a speech saying the same things that the Democrats have said for ages. And they actually stole the election this time. They had the FBI and social media companies censoring our free speech, censoring America. We couldn't even talk about COVID, medical misinformation, suffer from YouTube strikes, and so on. It was ridiculous. Now, Raskin is making a pretty reasonable point, saying, yeah, if it's free and fair and it's legitimate and we don't have observers thrown out and election rules changed and the CIA making up fake propaganda pieces to serve to Joe Biden's campaign, if it's not that, then sure, we'll accept the results. Here's the rest of it. Clapping like idiots.
Yeah, and that is the Democrats' history. They honor it. That is the big difference between the parties. One of the big.
No, it isn't. What is it with these people? There are videos of 20 minutes of Democrats denying the results. Jamie Raskin himself, Bill, let me see if he gets into it. Jamie Raskin objected to Trump in 2016.
Okay, so...
And on that point, I'll tell you, the political scientists have told us the hallmark characteristics of a fascist political party. Number one, they don't accept the outcome of democratic elections that don't go their way.
Yeah. Okay, Jamie Raskin objected in 2016. So is he a fascist on this?
Right? Number two, they embrace political violence as an instrument for obtaining power. And three, they're not organized democratically, they're organized.
Okay, so here it is. It's right here. You can see it. This was a while back from Jamie Raskin. His hair was a little bit different back then, but he objected to Florida's electoral votes. Here it is.
What purpose is member right?
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified because they violated Florida's prohibition against dual office holding.
Debate is out of order. Section 15 and 17 of the Title III of the United States Codes require that any objection be presented in writing signed by both members of the House of both a member of the House of Representatives and a senator, is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Okay, so he literally objected in 2016, and then he's going to sit there and lecture everybody, and Bill Maher's not even going to call him out on that. It's one of the most pathetic little patty cake games you've ever seen here. They might as well be 3-year-olds.
Top down as a cult of a personality around a charismatic or allegedly charismatic figure, right?
Trump's been a charismatic figure for 50 years. He had a hit TV show for #1 TV show for what, 12 years, something like that, 10 years. What are you talking about, Jamie?
I mean, and that's a fascist party. They also don't put issues before the people for meaningful discussion and debate. This whole campaign's been wasted. What do? Scapegoating, racism, anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism? What? Trump's been all in for Israel.
Immigrant bashing and gay bashing. They got mad.
Golly.
Our great president, Joe Biden, because he said there were semi-fascist currents running through the Republican Party. But I'm sorry, if the shoe semi-fits, you said.
Wow, it's just pathetic. So Bill Maher, I know a lot of people give him a lot of praise here, but he sat there and let Jamie Raskin just lecture him about Democrats accepting power. Did he? I didn't watch the full thing, obviously. This is what we just saw here together. I don't know if he brought that up later on in the interview, but insane that Raskin's going to sit there and say we accept the results of an election. Raskin was objecting in Congress in 2017. We just played the video. So the DOJ is not really interested in free and fair elections. Democrats are not either. They're there to tip the scales. They're going to do whatever they can do to maneuver it into their favor. We'll be here covering it, calling them out. Thanks for subscribing as we do. All right, now let's turn our attention over to Arizona because we had another good order that came out from America First Legal. And let's see what they had to say about this. Victory in Arizona from America First Legal. We had a big problem with a giant bucket of voters in Arizona who were registered voters, but the problem is they didn't have any proof of citizenship on file. And this is one of many glitches that we've seen in 2024, this election cycle, in addition to the glitch from Jenna Griswold posting the passwords online, in addition to Jocelyn Benson of Michigan, revealing to us all that there's a glitch in the Dominion system that is nationwide that impacts disability terminals that are used by people who have trouble using other terminals. So there are problems. They are deploying people to go solve these problems. They're obfuscating and hiding material from us. But America First Legal got a nice victory in the state of Arizona, and we'll read through the order. But here is the issue. It includes a big bucket of questionable voters, 218,000 people. Okay, that is a lot. And today, a few days ago, earlier in the week, the Superior Court in Arizona issued the ruling. Now, here's the problem. 218,000 individuals were registered to vote, and they didn't have proof of citizenship on file. That is a ton, okay? In 2020, the margin in Arizona was about 11,000 votes. This is a huge bucket, absolutely dispositive, meaning you might have easily, theoretically, 11,000 people who are non-citizens or are problematic voters who should not be on the list. Earlier this month, America First Legal sued, and now we've got an order. We'll read through the order. At trial, we listened to a couple bits of the hearing here earlier on this channel. Fontes testified that his office only possesses a partial list of 98,000 of the 218,000 affected individuals because the MVD hasn't even given him a complete list. However, the court found that Fontes provided inconsistent testimony, and so they're very happy about it. Here is the full decision in Arizona. You can see Strong Communities Foundation versus the Arizona Department of State election litigation in the state of Arizona. Here's what the judge says out of our Superior Court, telling us, all right, look, on October 28th, just a few short days ago, The court held an evidentiary hearing and trial on the merits, and we had testimony presented there. We played some of it here. The court received the evidence, heard the arguments, and observed the demeanor of the witnesses. Now, the court has since reviewed and considered the evidence and issues these findings of facts. Now, as the court admonished the parties at the hearing, the only issue for this court is to decide whether the records that the plaintiff, we'll call them the Republicans, whether they requested must be released pursuant to public record law. Now, despite the political undertones, this is simply a public records case. That's it. Saying Strong Communities for Arizona is a nonprofit. And what they're looking for is they filed a request back in September, so not recently, with the Arizona Secretary of State's office. They said, hey, we need this info. What do you need? A subset of the statewide voter registration database. We have a big database. It's called the VRDB that contains only those registered who are active and inactive voters that have been identified by your office, Democrat Secretary of State, as registrants who, quote, first obtained their Arizona driver's license before 1996 and then were issued a duplicate replacement before registering to vote sometime after 2004. That may be moved from the full ballot to a federal-only registration list if the recorder's anticipated lawsuit is successful. Okay, so a lot happening here in that paragraph. Remember that Stephen Richer, Maricopa County recorder, the guy who lost his election and who started an anti-Trump, anti-election denialism organization, who shows up on CBS, 60 Minutes and screams about elections, that guy. He filed a lawsuit. He's like, wow, we just discovered this problem. And so one government person sued another government person and said, we found this problem. And so then this third party, Strong Communities, came in and they said, wait a minute, what? What's the list? So we want access to the list. So in other words, the PRR sought, which is the public records request, sought a complete list of voters affected by a glitch. Okay, a very convenient glitch they just discovered. Between the systems of the MVD and the Arizona Secretary of State's office, which is Richer's office, whereby some voters had been, quote, automatically but incorrectly understood by the voter registrations to have provided documentary proof of citizenship. So the idea being when you go and you register to vote, or when you get a license, rather, they check your citizenship status in order to get that license. Then you get a driver's license number. Your citizenship has been checked. Then we take that, go register to vote. They say on our registration to vote, hey, what do we need from you? Oh, your driver's license number. Oh, great. Driver's license number is valid. That means the MVD is checked that you're a citizen because they did the checking. So we don't have to do the checking at the Secretary of State's office. Well, apparently the MVD was not checking people from a big bucket of votes. It looks like from 1996, maybe all the way to 2004. They're like, well, we didn't actually check that. We thought you were checking that. They're like, no, we weren't checking. We thought you were checking. No. So we'll call these people the affected voters. Now, on September 24th, Adrian Fontes, our Secretary of State, Arizona's Jenna Griswold, notified EZAZ through lawyers that the public records request would not be fulfilled before the election. Sorry, we're not going to give you those names so you can check to see if they're citizens or anything. Why? Well, why won't you give them to us? Safety of voters. What? Safety? Well, yeah, if we give you like 100,000 names, like somebody on that list might be threatened or something, so we're not going to give you the names because there's a bunch of people on there. Well, we have to check to see if they're citizens or not, to see how bad the list is, to see how many people are there, and whether they're voting. So you have to release the names to us. They said, no, we can't. It's a safety problem. Okay, well, just release it to us under seal. Well, no, we're also concerned about the accuracy of the list. What do you mean? The accuracy? It's either accurate or not. Like, just give us the list. Well, it might not be right. What? The letter neither invoked that law or that law as the reason for withholding any of this. And so on September 26, the Republicans were notified about the records request. they got a notification through the portal. They said, your record request, guess what? Closed. Don't ask again. The message was added to their FOIA request, their record request. It said, dear Republicans, we're writing to inform you that our response was released before and your request has now been closed. So Marissa Hamilton, shout out, president of EasyAZ.org, testified that after both receiving the letter and the notification, she understood that to mean that her request was denied. And so the court came out and they found that the letter of September 24th and the closure was a denial. So they said, you're not getting it and it's closed. So that was a denial. It's boom. So then on October 2nd, they filed a lawsuit. And they said, how dare you deny us? This was in response to Stephen Richer, who sued Adrian Fontes, so fake Republican suing an ultra Democrat, like because they're on the same team. Just let's not mince words on that. They both hate Trump and Republicans. The recorder's action sought to prevent a number of estimated, at the time, 98,000 voters from voting. So wait a minute, we don't know who those are. So Stephen Richer said, don't let them vote. Move them to federal only voters. And by the way, the Republicans were very upset about this because these 98,000 were largely Republicans. It's or likely to be Republicans. I don't think we knew that exactly, but likely to be Republicans just based on the dates. Like they were old, like much older people before the immigration, not recent people, like 20 years old. So probably not new Democrat voters, more likely to be old Arizona Republican voters from when the state was even redder, before we had a massive trove of immigration over these last 3 years, which has been worse than ever. So they say that he had been accurately recorded, said these 98,000 actually had proof of citizenship, and there was just a system flaw. So then what happened is Richer and Fontes jointly admitted, they came out, they're suing each other, and we've seen this happen many times here, okay? It's a patty cake game between two sides. It's supposed to be adversarial. They try to confuse everybody by saying, oh, no, we're suing you, because everybody thinks that's a problem. But then they just enter into basically a contractual settlement agreement, come to terms that are beneficial for both of them, that undermine what they can't do by themselves. Allows them to do what they can't do by themselves, undermining the law. So they say they jointly admitted that a flaw came out between the Arizona driver's licensing issuance process and a statewide voter registration database. It failed to maintain any indicator for election officials of the original issuance date. So we don't know when they got the license, and the MVD only started checking citizenship at a certain time. So we don't know before or after that time. So then Fontes and the recorder Richer, these two guys who say our elections are incredible, they further admitted this flaw would cause certain registrants to automatically but inaccurately, understood by the voter system, to have provided proof of citizenship. Automatically, but not accurately. Oh, you're a citizen. Oh, you're a citizen. Oh, you're a citizen. And that the Secretary of State worked with the MVD to identify people who registered to vote for the first time since 2005, used the number of their Arizona driver's license as proof of citizenship, and the license number was first issued before October 1996. Okay, so it's like a weird bucket. It's not that important. Before a certain date, they registered using this way after a certain time. It's a lot of people. Obviously, it's a lot. It's almost 200,000. According to Secretary Fontes and Recorder Richer, as of September 18th, they've identified almost 98,000 registered voters who meet that criteria. It's a lot. So we don't know, are they citizens or not? In a press release, Fontes noted that a recent addition of another 118,000 people to the list impacted the number. Originally, it was only 98,000, as we saw. Then 118,000 came out. They said it was the result of including renewed and reinstated licenses in the data. And when they renewed or reinstated, okay, they came after that, but they may also not have shown any citizenship because they just renewed it and reinstated it. So the press release further noted, they said that the secretary has collected all available data from the MVD and when able to do so, notified all election officials, sent every recorder voter records so that they could do that we could enable save database verification so the county recorders can begin conducting citizenship verification. Engage with the Department of Health and birth certificates. So they're like, okay, we're going to start processing and verifying citizenship. Of 200,000 people? At the evidentiary hearing at the bench trial, Fontes testified the total number of individuals affected by the system error, 218,000 at trial. He said that the secretary possesses the initial list of 98,000 registered voters without citizenship proof. However, he denied that they possess the complete list of all 218,000. Wait, you only have one list? Yeah, I don't have the rest of them. He claimed that the press release's reference to the complete list was, I thought you said in your press release you had the full list. So you can tell us who's on that list. And this is exactly what we speculated here. Remember this? Our thesis when this whole thing went down was that Stephen Richer was suing and they were releasing these lists in droves. First list was a good list of Republicans. So the Republicans would come out and say, no, don't throw them off the list. Then they came out and dropped another batch of 118, and those are the bad voters. And then you ask for that list. Oh, no, we don't have that list. I thought you already said you had that list. He claimed the press release was hasty drafting and unartful language. He said the secretary was not in possession of a list and that no such list of affected voters existed for 118,000 people. Fontes maintained that the MVD never provided him with the list that contains any personal identifiable information of those 118,000 people. So it's the ostrich approach. You just duck your head in the sand. I have no idea what is on the list. Is that a myth? However, Secretary Fontes provided inconsistent testimony on this point, says the judge. Inconsistent testimony, dishonest. Initially, denying that he even possessed a list of the 98,000. Then he changed his testimony after he got back from lunch. Well, I don't know. I don't have that list. You don't? No, I don't think so. Oh, wait, I do. His testimony suggested that he lacked detailed familiarity with the secretary's efforts with regard to the issue and with regard Secretary of State Office's efforts with regard to the issue and with regard to the records in possession related to the 218,000. So the judge is like, you're not even looking into this. You don't even know? Fontes also testified that much of the information contained in the database is derived from MVD records and that his office routinely responds and releases copies of the entire database. And as such release is specifically provided. So he's like, well, you already released the whole database. And you would agree that the database does contain a field in the database. It's like, think of it like a giant spreadsheet that denotes whether a voter is a federal voter who has failed to maintain proof of citizen. So like you have a record, right? Yeah. You release the record to other people, right? Yeah. In the record, it tells us whether they're a federal only voter, right? Yeah. And there's a column that says, do they have proof of citizenship, right? Like yes or no? Yeah. Okay. Now, Ms. Hamilton also confirmed this, testifying that her attorneys had used a records request to obtain access to the database, and that before, she's like, we've already gotten a request before. They gave us 6.7 million voter records on August 8th. And those records contained information on 42,000 only federal voters. So, like, we know they have it. All we're asking for is for them to narrow the subset. And so the judge is saying, wow, okay. So throughout the hearing, the court did not receive any evidence of any threats to federal only voters. They're saying, well, if we release this list to you, people might die. And they're like, what? You already released this other list to us of 6.7 million people, and we already identified 42,000 people who haven't provided proof of citizenship or whatever. So we don't have any evidence that they got threatened. So why would they be threatened if you release this list? And there was no credible evidence, says the judge, of any specific threats at all. The secretary also testified he was not aware of any specific threats to federal-only voters because they're just liars looking for excuses. We can't give you this data about how bad our election is, how compromised it is because of voter safety. What? The parties agree that the full voter registration database is a public record and can be legally used to contact voters, so it's our law. Now, the government offered this guy, Professor Robert Pape, as an expert witness. The court found that Professor Pape met the rules as an expert and allowed to offer his expert opinion, but the court only gives minimal weight to him. As detailed, Professor Pape's testimony focused on political violence and political violence trends nationally, no trends in Arizona. He admitted on cross-examination he didn't even research Arizona. He offered little more than speculation, saying that if we release this information, there's going to be violence or harassment, and he was just going off national statistics. What it sounds like a terrible class to take. The credibility of his testimony is further diminished by what appeared to be gratuitous political bias in his report and his testimony. He's a woke professor. The professor's opinions regarding general political violence focused almost entirely on allegations of past and anticipated prospective violence only related to Trump. When questioned, he failed to offer a credible explanation for a seemingly partisan emphasis on potential violence from only one end of the political spectrum. Outstanding. I can't wait to see who wrote this. Secretary Fontes and Professor Pape also argued producing the list of 218,000 voters would expose those individuals to harassment and violence. However, the only evidence they presented about generalized threats was about elected officials. They failed to identify any threats against any people, and Ms. Hamilton's unrebutted testimony established that EZAZ doesn't condone violence at all, doesn't harass anybody, actually carefully screens its members and volunteers to ensure that anybody who's accessing the list doesn't participate in anything close to that. So then they brought out the woke Professor Pape. He testified that there was a potential of violence against voters who may be misidentified as illegals, especially if the information was publicly released on the internet. But Pape also testified he was unfamiliar with Arizona law and did not realize that Arizona criminalizes releasing the database on the internet. So it's like, hey, that's already illegal. So we're not publishing this stuff online. In fact, Fontes later testified that his office had recently referred an individual to law enforcement for posting voter registration info online that he obtained from their office, right? You get it for your research, but you can't post it online. Don't post the files online. Pape also testified he was unaware that the entire database was not only a public record, but specifically identifies each federal-only voter. So it's like this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. Now, the professor and Fontes provided no evidence that the Republicans had unlawfully released any other database before. There's no evidence that there was any harassment or that EZAZ has organized any Republican efforts. Fontes also indicated that he was unaware of EZAZ submitting any challenges to voter registrations, saying we don't even do that. However, when we do identify ineligible people, we refer them to the recorder's office. That's all. We just look at the list and just refer them over. Hamilton testified they carefully screen all their members. They provide extensive training. She personally posts on social media multiple times per day. Shout out to Miss Hamilton on X. But doesn't engage in violence or anything like that. Says that EZAZ would not oppose an order. She says, you can even order us to not distribute it to anybody. That's fine. We're not going to do it anyways. Fine. Whatever you want. Put that in there. Further agreed that we're not going to oppose an order that required them to obtain written assurances Yeah, we'll even tell them, like, if you get we'll make them sign a receipt. We promise not to disclose this. Okay, no problem. Like, we'll do anything you want. Just give us the data. We'll protect everybody. No one's going to die, Adrian. Secretary Fontes argued that providing the list would necessarily lead to violence. He says, even death, people are going to die like COVID of one or more affected voters who's identified on the list. Even if this court specifically ordered that the list could only go to recorders and leadership in the legislature and the House. So the judge is saying, this is ridiculous, okay? Adrian Fontes, your claims are not credible. Okay, there's no evidence. No one's going to die. Relax. Fontes testified. He says, well, it's my opinion. If the legislature is provided a copy, legislature would undoubtedly give the list to third-party people, and then they would have the specific intent to encourage those groups to engage in violent or harassing behavior, even death or injury. Ridiculous, the judge says, not supported by any credible evidence, not supported by any claims. And so the secretary avowed to the court he'll comply with whatever the ruling is. And so in conclusion, they say, we recognize well-established presumption of disclosing public records. The desire to withhold these records means you have to show why under Arizona law. All of this stuff may only be used for the purposes, and they have to be disclosed. And so the court finds specifically that the information that was requested is a public record. It has a substantial nexus to their official duties because it governs the conduct of the election. And so there is no exception for imperfect or unreliable information. Just because your records are garbage and because you make mistakes doesn't mean you can't give this. In fact, that means you should give it. There's an even greater interest in disclosing the stuff so we can see where the problems are. If you want to withhold this, you must show specifically what the harm is. You haven't done that here. During his testimony, Adrian Fontes argued that he would withhold the information if withholding it could save just one life. So dramatic. Well, I can't release this because I'll have to save just one life. What are you talking about? Putting aside the lack of any evidence that anyone's life is in danger anywhere, the court rejects their broad reading of best interest of the state. If this was the case, if you could withhold records because it's in your best interests, then you can do whatever you want. You could withhold any record if you thought it could even save one life, whatever that means. The court would be adopting some broad arbitrary standard. We're not going to do that. Now, although Adrian provided testimony to generalized political threats in the current environment, there was no evidence that EZAZ is going to engage in any of this. In fact, they showed the opposite. You've already given them records and nothing bad has happened to anybody. No one's been implicated with any privacy or any other confidentiality rights. There's no evidence they've ever weaponized this information. There's no evidence they've ever harassed anybody. In fact, the opposite. EZAZ.org provided unrebutted, specific, credible evidence that it carefully vetted, trains members, and is a good steward. And so in summary, there was no credible evidence that the plaintiff, the Republican EZAZ in this case, or its agents will misuse the requested information, will encourage violence or anything of the sort. And privacy records are also not enough. The driver privacy law forbids, the Seventh Circuit says, and so none of that is persuasive to overcome the disclosure, right? Saying your right to personal privacy is not being violated. Saying the secretary has failed to establish that a release of the records would be detrimental to the state. And so it is ordered that Arizona release the list of 98,000 affected voters no later than noon Monday, one day before the election on November 4th. They shall also release any communications with the county recorders that contain data sets, compilations, information lists, and more. Also, the personal identifiable information shall be included in the list. Similarly, all communications and data transmissions between the Secretary of State's office and any of their counterparts. Oh, this is so good. Governor, DOT, MVD, Department of Health, County Recorder, Stephen Richer, County Elections, Arizona Legislature. Get those records by Monday noon, November 4th. Whew, I can't wait to see what comes of this, baby. It's going to be good. Defendants may redact the data sets to prevent the release of information that you wouldn't ordinarily release. It's further ordered that before November 6th, EZAZ may only distribute this to certain people listed here. Do not release any personal identifiable information. So a bunch of orders, and this is no problem at all. And then prepare and lodge a form of judgment, including attorney's fees. So amazing. So Honorable Scott A. Blaney delivering the news. A great decision. Really nice to see that happen. What a joke of Adrian Fontes and these government bureaucrats. Voter safety, clearly an amazing case. EZAZ did their homework, and they have the record to back it up. Have done a great job of showing why they've already gotten records before that were never a problem, historically speaking. And so another batch of records will not be a problem. And you can see when they're out of options, they just always default to usually the same talking points, right? Usually it's like Trump's an insurrectionist or something, but it's always violence and intimidation and someone's going to get killed. You have to do what we say or else someone's going to die. That's what's happening in Arizona. But this problem has been going on for a long time, for a lot longer than even we suspected. Here's a background on what this was and where it came from ABC 15 in Arizona.
And now coming to light on the data coding issues affecting our Arizona voter rolls just before a major presidential election. The ABC 15 investigators found a missed opportunity where these data problems could have been identified and fixed years ago. It's been 6 weeks since Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes admitted our voter registration system had a problem.
This isn't a comfortable position to be in by any stretch,
Yeah.
neither for us nor for Arizona's voters.
Days earlier, Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer was alerted a non-citizen was a registered voter due to miscoding in the Motor Vehicle Division's driver's license database that affected the electronic voter roll. Turns out an estimated 218,000 people, 5% of all Arizona voters, were marked as citizens, even though they may not have provided proof that's been
5% of our voters. And remember, 2020 was about 11,000 votes.
Required for the last 2 decades under Prop 200.
The fact that it didn't come to light earlier baffles me a bit.
Ken Bennett is
Well,
the
we know
former
why.
Arizona Secretary of State.
But it never came to our attention that any county had found someone who was registered that wasn't supposed to be. Nothing ever came up between 2009 and 2015 while I was secretary.
Because for you, that would have raised a big red flag, right?
Well, it would have raised the same big red flag that it raised this time.
After Bennett left office, the issue did come to light at least once. In 2016 in Maricopa County, ABC 15 even reported on it. The case of Alan Fagenblatt.
I didn't want to get in trouble. I still don't want to get in trouble.
We initially agreed to protect his identity, but his name became public when he was criminally charged for lying on his voter registration form. He only had a green card, but checked this box saying he was a citizen on the Service Arizona website while providing his real name and driver's license number. He said he never had planned to vote. He just wanted to show that ineligible voters like him could get on the rolls.
You know, you got all these politicians. They've been in politics for many years, and nobody figured this out?
Yeah.
Back then, Maricopa County Recorder Helen Purcell said she did not think this could lead to widespread voter fraud.
I think that we check it thoroughly enough that is not the case.
Purcell's office blamed the Fagenblatt case on an MVD information loophole. 8 years later, the same loophole was discovered again with a new voter by recorder Stephen Richer. So I asked MVD, why didn't they fix the flaw back in 2016? A spokesperson wrote me that it was allowed due to how the system historically operated based on a decades-old policy. This is that policy that told MVD how to implement a 1996 law, which required people to provide proof of authorized presence in the U.S., like a passport, visa, or birth certificate, if they were applying for a first-time driver's license or state ID. Then, in 2004, election law changed under Prop 200, saying driver's licenses and IDs issued after that 1996 law took effect could serve as proof of citizenship when registering to vote for the first time.
These two laws did not mesh perfectly, but election officials trusted the data that they were getting from MVD would confirm two things. First, if someone had confirmed proof of citizenship, and second, they had a driver's license or ID issued after 1996.
MVD now tells us the data had the following loopholes. All pre-1996 driver's license holders were also coded as citizens, even though some were not, and MVD coding did not necessarily show the original license issue date, so people could have been coded as a post-1996 license if they ever had a duplicate renewal or reinstatement. MVD says the data flaws have been fixed in the last few weeks.
We've had, for 20 years, Republican and Democratic governors and secretaries of state and county recorders. They're all had a hand in this, and no one caught it.
We talked to Corey Langhofer and other election attorneys who've worked on lawsuits over Arizona's proof of citizenship laws. Well, they also say they didn't know about the data coding issues until now. They do say many checks of voter credentials over the years through multiple investigations have rarely turned up unauthorized voters.
There was no evidence presented in any of the cases that we have, like large numbers or any numbers of non-citizens who are voting in our elections.
Well, they don't have any data. Even Adrian Fontes doesn't even know the names, right? I don't even have the lists. So you can see it's just a joke. And they told us in 2020, remember this? That our elections were totally safe, totally secure, everything's amazing. And in 2022, Carrie Lake lost fair and square, even though there were election problems all over the place. The lists themselves are terrible. They're just filled with people who should not be on them. And we saw this same pattern playing out in Michigan, where she's going to remove a bunch of people after the next two election cycles. Thousands and thousands of people. We're talking 5% of the Arizona voters in Arizona. They don't have a clear idea on if they're citizens or not, and they're trying to figure it out. And they just discover it at the last minute when it's too late to do anything about it. Shocking. Really very convenient for them. In Arizona, this case is a good decision. We'll see what the numbers look like, and then we'll see who's on that list and what we can do about it in the aftermath. So thanks for subscribing, my friends. We'll see you back here when this case coverage continues. We've got more business to attend to, my friends. Couple quick segments here on this one. Let's take a look. We had the Arizona fob situation, and I wanted to just take a closer look at this one. Questions about the Arizona alleged fob thief and Fieldworks, which is an organization that is allegedly connected to Field and Media Corp, but we don't know if it is ultimately connected. We'd have to look into that a little bit further. But this was flagged for us by Carolyn Wren, and you can see we see some interesting things happening here. Mike Manusco posted about this from Monroe County, saying that in Pennsylvania, there was a company called Field and Media Corp, a subsidiary of Field Corp. So Field Corp is the parent. Field and Media Corp is the subsidiary Arizona-based organization working out of Lancaster County. They say they were there in Pennsylvania registering a bunch of people to vote illegally. 30 irregular forms. Those forms were segregated and transferred out. The broader investigation continues with reference to Field Corp's involvement. Our office is in regular contact, and so questions remain. Field Corp, Field and Media Corp. Now, what Carolyn flagged for us is this fellow, Walter Ringfield Jr., is the individual who got arrested for taking a key fob, allegedly, and he was charged here in Arizona with a number of different crimes, and he's got some priors too, but you can see these were the charges that he got hit with from our county attorney, Rachel Mitchell. She said he's got a bunch of charges. Now, this was an interesting case because we heard about him back when this happened in July, taking a key fob, but there were some other things they charged him with. So he got indicted. There were a couple direct complaints. He was captured on a surveillance, removing $9,500 worth of vintage jewelry from mannequins at a Phoenix art museum. Okay, so art. That was on July 1st, got submitted, but on May 20th, they got him. On June 15th, he was captured on video at the Arizona State Legislature, walking through a secured area, removing 7 challenge coins and 3 coasters. And then on June 20th, while he was working at the Maricopa County Elections Department, Ringfield is accused of taking a security fob from the Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center. Right? That's the big one. And so the question I think may be, like, once they caught him here, they may have also closed these other cases. Like, I don't think he was probably a wanted person. But his case is currently pending. Trial is not scheduled until after the election. These were the original charges. You can see not a lot of detail in here. Says on June 15th, he did go into the Arizona Senate, took some real property, and was charged. That's it. We had another complaint here. Theft, which is a class 3 felony. That's the vintage jewelry from the Phoenix Museum. And then this is the computer tampering indictment, which came down. Count 1, computer tampering. Says he exceeded authority, caused the disruption of Maricopa County computer system. And I'm sure that's going to be by taking the key fob. Computer tampering. Walter Alfonso. Without authority, recklessly disrupted the system. Critical infrastructure, denial of a network. All right. So this is an interesting case as well. We're going to keep our eye on that one. That's the update. Now, there were some allegations maybe that this company was connected to Field Corps. Don't know. Fieldworks is listed here. This is from Adrian Fontes. Walter Ringfield Jr., if you look that up there, looks like he was working for a company called Fieldworks, LLC. And I don't know if that was connected with Field Corps at all, or where that is. Let's see. Do a quick search on that. No, I think it's a different company, actually. So Fieldworks looks like this. Yeah, so they don't look connected to me, actually, now that we're looking at it. So here is what Fieldworks looks like. Fieldworks is an innovative grassroots and voter contact strategy organization. And the Field Corps organization, their website is down. So I do think it's a different organization. This one actually looks a lot more legitimate now that we're looking at this here together. So if we're just connecting the dots here, I think that it is Fieldworks, which is different than Field and Media Corps. Although let's see if there is anything like that here. Now there is looks like Field Corps, the company here in Arizona, right? So that, when I did a search for that, that is here. So Field Corps LLC is showing up in Arizona. Now those were there. Those look like these people were added in 2018. Let's go to the end. Let's see if they were around in, these are a bunch of 2018 people who are on this list. So anyways, keeping eyes on this, because the theory is, the thesis that people are looking into, and I appreciate Catherine Wren's digging on this. One idea would be you just need a password. Like in Colorado, the thesis would be passwords leaked. So now what do you need? You need physical access. All right, well, if you're an election worker and you have physical access and you have the passwords and you're a compromised person, you've got all the components you need. So we're looking, at who has access. And in Arizona, there was this guy who allegedly stole a key fob. But when he was working, it looks like he was working for maybe a more legitimate company. Nevertheless, the DOJ will be here in Arizona, and you see federal monitors are coming here. We're going to have them in Apache, Pima, Yuma, and Arizona. And so they'll be here very soon. Kari Lake looking pretty good now in Arizona. We're happy about those new polls that seemingly show her race tightening up. And so we'll keep our eye on what's happening in Arizona as well. Now let's turn our attention over to Georgia, because some quick updates out of Georgia as well. And then we got Peanut. May Peanut rest in peace coming up next before we hear from you. All right, so let's get to this one. Madness in Georgia and new lawsuits being filed. You see that as the election is upon us, there were attempts from Georgia government officials to keep observers who are Republicans from participating. This was a letter that came out from Catherine Glenn. She works at the registration department over at the elections department, registrations manager, rather. She wrote this one on November 2nd, just days before the election, says, watchers for ballot drop-off. Watchers for ballot drop-off. From her to basically everybody in Fulton County, home of Fannyland. Was Fanny copied on here? I don't know. Fanny got copied. Don't see it. But here is what she says. Okay, 2 days before the election. Good morning, team. FYI, there are no watchers approved for the ballot drop-off! Exclamation point. Do not let them in the building. If they want to observe from the parking lot, you can't stop that, but they are not allowed to sit in the building. Have your security detail enforce it! Hashtag, I love my team, heart. Thank you, Catherine, Fulton County. Okay. Kick them out. Don't let them in. Not happy about it. The Republican Party there condemned this as soon as it happened. This is Josh McCoon, the Republican Party chair of Georgia. Says, we condemn this blatant violation of the law. Emboldened by the failure of our judicial branch to stop their changing of the election rules before the election day. Remember, the Georgia courts have basically reversed everything that the Fulton County Election Board, or actually the Georgia State Election Board, tried to implement. Said, no hand counting. No, you can't do any of those things either. No this, no that, none of that. Georgia Democrats and their allies are banning poll watchers from observing these so-called special weekend operations to try to bank more Democrat absentee ballots. We all know what's going on. Democrats are panicked by the incredible Republican turnout in early voting and will do anything to try to catch up, even if it means doing it under the cover of darkness and stiff-arming any independent observation of whatever the hell is going on in their 4, quote, special voting locations that are open today, with no notice or approval by anyone authorized to oversee the elections administration at all. Georgia Republicans are calling on our elected officials and administrators to stop this madness, which is doing incalculable and irreversible damage to confidence in this election. Now, there's been some progress on this because there was outrage. And they filed a lawsuit. Democrat officials, this happened immediately, right? Basically, one right after the other. Democrat officials in Georgia, says Michael Whatley, are playing fast and loose. Fulton County and DeKalb and Gwinnett and others, they all decided at the last minute to accept ballots over the weekend, which disregards the law. They have also failed to let our poll observers in to watch. The Secretary of State has issued guidance to allow Republican poll watchers in, but local officials refuse. Our election integrity operation has filed a lawsuit. Georgia voters demand that the state and courts ensure that these reckless counties administer fair, transparent, and secure elections. Anything less undermines public trust. So that's from Michael Whatley. Then there's an update. He posted that. Then he says a short time later, he says, update. Following our pressure campaign, our poll watchers have now been let into the building in all 4 Georgia counties after they got in a few thousand votes that they needed. Our lawsuit over the offices remains open, is still pending. Remaining open is still pending, meaning why did they open these special collection facilities? But we have eyes in the room as the votes are being counted, finally. So we will continue our aggressive efforts to enforce Georgia law and protect the vote. How many ballots were counted before they let them in? And why do the Democrats do that? Well, we know why, because they're cheaters. Now, even Brad Raffensperger, who lectures everybody everywhere he goes about how amazing Georgia is, and even though it's terribly problematic, says we're pleased that Fulton County has implemented our requirement allowing monitors in the spirit of Georgia law. But we are concerned that this was ever a question in the first place. The eyes of the world are on Fulton County. Local officials must ensure, listen, Fanny, talking to you, that every process from now until Election Day and after is transparent and in accordance with Georgia law, given the history of controversy in this county's election administration. So that's Raffensperger. That's a scolding right there. He's scolding them. I can't believe you even tried to keep them out. Are you insane? Yes, they are, Brad. That's what we've been saying. It's corrupt. Why would they do that in the first place? Why did we even have to question this in the first place, says Brad. We know why. Because they're corrupt, Brad. Hello. Glad you finally realized it. All right, so then Josh says, he's the Republican Party chairman. He says, I've been apprised that after refusing to admit our poll watchers, that Fulton County and other counties are now allowing our watchers in to observe the voting that's happening today. It's unacceptable that the decision was made to open these locations without any notice or authorization from any party charged with election administration. Our legal team is evaluating our next steps with regard to today's decision allowing this activity in the first place. I'm grateful to Chairman Whatley, RNC chairman, and our legal and election integrity teams for jumping on this issue immediately. Now, while we should not have to alert the public to have Georgia law enforced, I'm pleased we can finally have lawful observation now. Now, let me be absolutely clear. We will not tolerate violations of Georgia election law and will vigorously defend the integrity of this election every step of the way. So, sent that one in. As we know, there will be a bunch of monitors there in Georgia, all over the place, and they're filing lawsuits. So True the Vote is filing. Our friend Phil Holloway, who's also on YouTube, a great lawyer there in Georgia, said he's getting text messages now saying, Election Day is just days away. Interested in earning up to $700 to help elect Kamala Harris and help elect Kamala Harris at the same time? Reply join for info. And a friend of ours on Locals, I believe, got the same text. Kind of feels like they might be trying to buy votes there, right? But no, they're just going to you can just go help collect votes and vote, and we'll pay you money because they're so desperate. Now, Brad Raffensperger, remember earlier we saw the rumor that he was texting people trying to raise money for his election defense fund. He needed like $5 million. They've raised about $2 million. It's true. It was his organization. He is raising money to stop election denialism. He sent out an email soliciting potential donors last month. He wrote that the outcome will be close and that the fund is dedicated to protecting this year's results and standing up against those who attempt to delay certification. What does that mean? Does he know how this is going to go and how he's going to defend himself? Why does he need to defend anything? Why would there be attempts to delay certification? I don't know, but he might. So here's this person from Georgia who says, enough already, man. We're voting for Trump.
I haven't voted yet, but I plan on voting on Election Day, and I plan on voting for Donald Trump. I always voted Democratically, but due to my research, I recently changed my mind, Republican, from moving forward.
Yeah,
I haven't voted yet.
All right, so in Georgia, we're getting the vote out, my friends. If you're in Georgia, hope you're voting extra hard this time because we need it. All right, so, and now, my friends, we have a very serious segment coming up. And it might be a little sad, especially for some young ones out there, because we now have to say, rest in peace, Peanut the squirrel, eliminated by our bureaucratic, demonic, disgusting government that has nothing better to do than to go in, execute a search warrant, raid someone's homes, take their animals, their adorable little fluffy friends, and eliminate them. This is the squirrel taken out by New York. And here is what his owner said after he was taken from us on his very large and influential Instagram account. Says, well, internet, you won. You took one of the most amazing animals away from me because of your selfishness. Somebody called in the animal to animal control and says, to the group of people who called DEC, there's a special place in hell for you. Today at 10 a.m. Wednesday, October 30th, the New York State Department of Animal Control showed up to my house and took Peanut the squirrel. He was taken and euthanized. I'm in shock, disbelief, and disgusted to the people who did this to Peanut. For the last 7 years, Peanut has been my best friend. He's been the center of my world and many of yours for so long. I don't know how to process this emotionally. Last year, we moved to New York in hopes of starting a nonprofit animal rescue in Peanut's name. The farm will live forever on in Peanut's memory. With over 350 rescues, we've relied heavily on Peanut and his internet family to gather donations to help more animals. I don't even know how we will continue to fundraise for this nonprofit. I'll be taking a break from social media for a bit. And to the people who did this, thank you for breaking apart a family and crushing any hopes of our nonprofit to survive. I want to thank those who've stuck by and up for the last 7 years to watch Peanut and his antics. I will set up a fundraiser for those who want to donate in Peanut's name. I'll never give up on this nonprofit. And to those who fell in love with Peanut, thank you all. Mark Longo. Totally insane story that this ever even got this far. Here is a quick interview from Longo and the owners of Little Peanut. May you rest in peace.
We just learned that they have euthanized Peanut.
And the raccoon as well.
And the raccoon as well.
Fred.
I am so sorry. This must be really difficult for you.
It not only tears my family apart, but Peanut was the cornerstone of our nonprofit animal rescue. And 10 to 12 DEC officers raided my house as if I was a drug dealer.
What?
I was sat outside my house for 5 hours. I had to get a police escort to my bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to feed my rescue horses breakfast or lunch. I was sat there like a criminal. After they interrogated my wife to check out her immigration status, then proceeded to ask me if I had cameras in my house, then proceeded to go through every cabinet, nook, and cranny of my house for a squirrel and a raccoon.
They got a search warrant?
They got a search warrant. 4 departments and a judge signed off on a search warrant for a squirrel and a raccoon. And then they took them and killed them.
Why did they go through all that to get a search warrant for an animal that had been with you very safely, and the world witnessed this for 7 years? Why now suddenly did they show up with a search warrant and take these animals?
We haven't a clue. We don't know who made the complaints. Again, Peanut was an indoor squirrel, not harming anybody. He's been with...
Someone got mad. Somebody was bitter that he was having fun. He had a nice life. He was spending time with animals. He had big following. People get bitter and upset about it. So somebody probably called, you're in violation of the law. You're not allowed to have that. We could all have big Instagram followings if we all could have squirrels. And you know, so they called in and some other people said, well, that's our job. Our job is to stop this. Our whole existence, the reason we exist as a government bureaucrat is being validated. Finally, we can go do something. And then a bunch of people who are bored most of the time We're going to go raid a house. How many people showed up for 5 hours?
With us for 7 years. Not a single complaint was ever filed for this animal. We had him for 7.5 years. He became the world's most famous squirrel. We weren't hiding him by any means. He was all over TikTok. He became the first squirrel on TikTok to ever hit 1 million followers. He did every news station around the world. He's helped people. He's helped kids gather joy. And then we started a nonprofit animal rescue called Peanut's Freedom Farm to help animals like Peanut fight a good fight when they're in a neglected case or they're sitting in a slaughter auction. And he was the cornerstone of our life and our organization. We used his platform to help raise money for the 300 animals we have at our sanctuary.
All right, our sick government, nothing better to do than go harass people. So here was another video. You can see this is some of the content that they had on the interwebs. May Peanut rest in peace. You can see these are fun videos. People get very bitter about this. They say this guy looks too happy. He's having too much fun. He's got too much followers. He's making too much money. His life's too nice. That looks too, fun and exciting. So some upset person called it in, and then everybody else gets validated. They say, oh, perfect. We have a reason for to justify our existence and our paycheck. So we'll just go make this guy's life hell because their lives are hell. So you can see that is more. Now, this apparently is the person who's behind all of this. This is the director of the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, our friend ALX on X, flagged this one for us, who's responsible for the murder of Peanut the squirrel. And guess what her name is? Karen. Stories write themselves. DEC congratulates Captain Karen, the first woman ever to serve as the director of our Division of Law Enforcement. 26-year veteran, she's earned many accolades, including Special Operations Unit. Karen, taking out squirrels to save New York. This would be like a scene in a comedy show. It's like a Parks and Recreations scene, right? For those of you who've seen this, or like The Office. Like you could envision Peter Griffin from Family Guy having to go raid somebody's house to kill their squirrel, right? It's a Family Guy episode. And they probably name her Karen. And she probably look like that too. So yeah, it's what's happening. These people are in charge. She probably makes $100,000, $150,000, probably more, for killing squirrels in New York. Now, this is indicative of a much broader problem. If they'll do this to a squirrel that's a beloved, furry, little harmless creature on the internet, what are they going to do to you when they hate you for voting Republican? Okay? They think you're Hitler. This was a squirrel. They took this squirrel out, murdered him, raided his house like nothing. And it's a violation of that man's, in my opinion, rights. They would say, well, he's not licensed, and so it's our right to do this and all that stuff. This is your remedy. This is the government's remedy, is to kill the squirrel. That's it. Unless we discover there was some sort of long back and forth, did they send notices? Hey, we found you a squirrel, and you got to get licensed. Were there 50 warnings, or what's going on? At what point do you have to say, enough is enough? This guy's not complying with our licensing, so we have to go in there. And how many people do they have to rally and get approval for and execute SWAT teams to go get the squirrel? At what point? Gosh. All right, so then we have local news who can't even believe it because it's so stupid.
We have a very disappointing and sad update now on the saga of Peanut the squirrel.
You might have heard this little guy's been making headlines this week, and New York State officials now tell us the pet squirrel has been put down.
Murdered.
Authorities seized Peanut from a home in Pine City, New York. It's a little south of Elmira. Apparently, there have been multiple complaints. Peanut's owner says the squirrel's mother was hit by a car, and he'd been taking care of the animal ever since. The owner runs an animal sanctuary and says he knows it's illegal to own a wild animal without a license, and says he was working to get Peanut certified as an educational animal. A raccoon taken during the same raid also put down. Wow. The State Department of Environmental Conservation says all this is done to test for rabies. All right, that's what Albany's focusing on.
We have
Shout out to that guy. That's how we all feel right there, right there, right there. Okay, all right, you're kidding. Okay, that's great. Great job. Albany, New York. Amazing, outstanding job. Well done, Karen. You're doing great. So, absolutely insane. I don't know. I felt a little nervous, though, when I was watching this squirrel jump around. I thought something dangerous could happen. That squirrel could, like, I don't know, maybe hurt itself or kill that man. You know, sometimes like a bear, like if you have a bear in your house, that might kill the human, but that squirrel, you never know. Squirrels are very fast. They're very sneaky too. Might cut his jugular open or something like that. So that cat seems pretty petrified too, as you can see. That cat's like, where'd my friends go? Cat comes home after wakes up after a nap. He's like, where the hell is everybody? Oh, they're dead. Little Figaro, they murdered them because they were too dangerous for you. What? They're dead? Yeah, they're dead. So thanks to New York government bureaucrats. All right, so even Albany news anchors can't believe this. And what we're asking is this question, courtesy of Ashley St. Clair and many others, say, all right, this is enough already. If government oversight and overreach and tyranny has not pushed it over the edge thus far, Peanut the squirrel is going to do it. And so get out there. This is how the map should look as a consequence of this tyrannical behavior from our disgusting government. Not only should we win New York, we should win every state, even our friends in California. Don't you love animals? Don't you care about animal rights? Don't you have a heart for Peanut the squirrel? Where's your soul? Enough already. Vote red everywhere. And let's stop this madness. So there were more memes that were floating around. Ashley St. Clair had a bunch of them. This is what Kamala was working on. You can see. It's an AI image. That's the alternative. Do you want more of that in this world? Or do we want more freedom and justice for our furry friends? Here's another meme that came over from Chief Nerd. You can see this is a hearkening back to the Simpsons. Rest in peace, Peanut. Illegal migrants. Here's our government. Blind as Bart Simpson here. But when you have a pet squirrel, there's our government. Not happy about it. They're going to come and raid your home. And they're going to kill your animals. So my friends, wherever it is you are, let's not forget our friend Peanut the squirrel. And get out there and vote for that little guy. Donald Trump would never murder a squirrel. Raid someone's house and invade. And there's more to this because I have an article that tells us some more about what happened from Albany. My Twin Tears has more details on the search warrant, telling us that a popular pet squirrel was seized. 18 News reached out to DEC on Wednesday. And they said, did you guys murder that animal? What? And a representative confirmed that the officers did take the squirrel away, said that they could not provide any further information and that a public information officer would contact you soon. 18 News was awaiting a callback at the time the story was published and then got a response on Wednesday evening. Here's what they said. The government said in response. As part of an investigation of the unlicensed possession of a gray squirrel, 6 inches long, and raccoons in a Chemung County residence, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, seized 2 animals in coordination due to the presence of a rabies vector species called a raccoon in the home. Okay, what? Who the hell wrote this? Do they think they're in like a war zone? These people are so full of themselves, it's crazy. It's like, I can't believe they get anything done at all. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, what? You just killed 2 animals in the environment. What are you talking about? You didn't conserve anything. They're dead. Division of Law Enforcement seized 2 animals because they could have maybe had rabies. Like it's a vector. Like not that it had rabies, but that it might get rabies and then is a vector of rabies. Okay. So maybe they could have just taken the raccoon and tested the raccoon. Possession of wildlife, they said, is prohibited in New York. You have to get a license from us. And if we let you have a squirrel, then everyone else is going to have a squirrel. And our authority is going to look meaningless. You're embarrassing us by flouting the squirrel around. That was his mistake. I'm in New York, giving them jurisdiction. These license, well, because then they see it. Oh, now you're flouting our rules. They can't do it. Other people will get squirrels. These license requirements protect the animal and the public that's now upset. Yes. The investigation is ongoing and additional information will be provided as it becomes available. Yeah, right. Now, according to the owner, they served a search warrant on his house, searched his home, took Peanut and Fred. Longo provided 18 News with the search warrant that he was provided. According to the warrant, officers were authorized to search the entire property and to seize, quote, an unlawfully possessed gray squirrel, a raccoon, and any other unlawfully possessed wildlife. Great job, guys. Incredible. I want to know what lawyer was drafting that up. Or what law enforcement agent. Unlawful gray squirrel, one unlawful raccoon, and any other illegal wildlife. Great job. Is this what you envision your life to become? Longo adopted Peanut after his mom was hit by a car, and now he's up there in squirrel heaven with her, reunited, but taken from us too soon. Longo rehabilitated Peanut, kept him as a pet. He developed a following. He's dead. It's crazy. Longo, who's originally from Connecticut, moved there, started an animal sanctuary. The dude's like an animal lover, like his whole life. Dead. The Post announcing Peanut's seizure states the squirrel's internet presence helped him start an animal rescue, and our useless government is like, nah, he's dead. It's just sick. It's not stopping anytime soon. Okay, he's euthanized, and these people are maniacs. And so rest in peace, Peanut. Remember, we're all peanuts to them. This is from Eclectic Prophet, our friend of the show. Says we're all peanuts to them. So we stand in solidarity with Peanut and our friend who lost his beloved animal and pet and friend. And we'll keep our eye on what's happening in New York. But we're all Peanut now. All right, my friends. Let's see what you have to say about this. If you're just joining us, it's a beautiful Sunday. Thanks for joining us on this special election edition Sunday stream. I forgot to mention this show is only for people who voted or have a good plan to vote. So make sure you get those ballots in. It's important. All right, so if you're just joining us, we had some updates today. We talked about DOJ election monitors. We talked about Arizona and the new list that will be released tomorrow at noon. We'll talk about that tomorrow evening on the show. We also had the Arizona FOB update. I'm not so sure about that one. I got questions about that one. Georgia and access to observation has now been reversed. They tried to ban them, and now they had to reverse themselves. Even Raffensperger admits it's a disaster. And Peanut, we have a moment of silence for our friend Peanut. May he rest in peace. Now it's time to hear from you, my friends. Thanks for joining us on this day. Trump is out there rallying hard. I hope you're out there keeping your energy up. Did you text a friend today? Friends don't let friends stay home. We get out there and vote. All right. And so We had some great comments. My friends, I've seen some amazing donos. Thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting us on the beautiful day. Hey, K-Bean is clipping for us. Thank you, K-Bean. K-Bean, you rock. Look who's here. Okay, we got some great donos. Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer, for being here. Jennifer says, thank you, Rob, for opening up the morning streams for the election. Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for acknowledging that and for joining us as we go live here. It's important. We got important business to attend to here, Jennifer. So we're happy to have all of our friends here. And thanks for joining us on a Sunday, on a special edition. It's just great to be with you. It's coming up soon, man. Right around the corner. Okay, where are my screens? Not a banned account says justice for Peanut. Never forget. Hashtag MAGA. Hashtag never forget. Thank you, not a banned account. We're not going to forget. You know, he's up there in heaven with Harambe. Hey, F. Joe Biden says, I'm shocked Peanut got no hearing before they murdered him. Nothing. Yeah, no due process at all. Taken right out. And I know it's kind of like a joke, but also not really. Like, did he have even a chance to contest the search warrant? They just showed it up, took the animal, killed the animal immediately. Like, could even lodge a claim of, like a property, a claim on his property. What's up? F. Joe Biden, intellectual iconoclasm. Says they should start claiming they were swatted. It's absolutely analogous, and they should pursue swatting laws in their state and the reporters. Yeah, and I got questions about the whole thing. It's like, what was the investigation? Like, there should be a police report. Did somebody go over there, knock on their door? How do they know the animal's in their residence? Yeah, they saw the videos online, but can they prove it's in that home, right? The videos could be taken inside a home in some other jurisdiction. What, meaning, was there probable cause? Was there a crime committed? Were they alleging a crime was committed? Like, how did they get a basis to just go into his house? It's a search warrant, but what was the basis for it? What was the pretext for it? It is a swatting that caused the death of the two pets. Well, they definitely did get swatted, certainly. But my question is, like, what gave them the pretext? Was it an emergency or something that got them eyes on the pets in the first place? Or was it just a random internet anonymous tip? I hope there's more on this. Yeah. Not a banned account says, as an independent, I just voted Trump after Peanut. Amazing. We're glad you did. Enough's enough already. Look, enough's enough. Okay. We've got like trillions of dollars in debt, millions of illegal immigrants, multiple new wars, currency being debased, justice system gone, free speech evaporated. And now we've got a dead squirrel. All right, enough. Enough. Oni, what's up, Oni? Brought in 5 membos. Thank you for bringing in more membos, Oni. You're amazing. Who's handsome is here? You are. Chrissy Hunsacker is here. We've got Briar Rabbit, R.I.P, and Kevin B. Clark, gifted membos, courtesy of Oni. Thank you, Oni, for doing that. And welcome, new friends. We've got Not Eminem's mom is here. Welcome aboard as the supporter. Hey, we had some good Tucker videos from our event at Tucker for our new membos. Check those out. Posted those earlier this week. Ollie, what's up, Ollie? Brought in Richard Brookins. Welcome aboard, Richard Brookins. And thank you, Ollie, for bringing in membos. 5 more coming in from Ollie. We've got Someone Who Cares. We've got Coding Light. Hunch the Dirty Roofer. Welcome, Hunch. Crispy Mofo, 1776 is here. And Warrior Chick in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of our friend Ollie. What's up, Ollie? Hey, Randall Jenkins says, Trump Poliver, make North America great again. 3 months as a membo. Thank you, Randall, for being a membo for 3 months. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to have a strong North America. Canada should join us. Hey, Jason, clean, safe energy. Clean, safe energy. Membo for 5 months. Thank you, Jason. Says, love your show. Never miss one. Jason, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I really do. I know what you mean on that. We voted Trump. Let's go, Jason. Thanks for the report. Glad you're a membo. Thanks for being here for 5 full months. It's going to be a great several months ahead. Thank you, Jason. We got this from Ollie. says yuck, FooTube here. Glad I said that right. Thank you, Ollie. And Coding Light says voted, choo choo. I will say sadly, the only reliable test requires euthanizing the animal. Not that I agree. The only reliable rabies test requires euthanizing the animal. That's not really a good test, is it? Not that I agree. Rest in peace, Peanut. We love you. We love you, Peanut. Rest in peace. I don't know anything about. I'm sure there's an animal person who's would come out and say, no, Rob, it's like super dangerous. Like everybody could die. The whole neighborhood could die. It's not worth it. Like you have to kill the thing. I'm like, well, you know what? Sometimes life is just a little bit risky, okay? We live on the edge sometimes. Not everything has to be so buttoned down. I think you can probably live with a squirrel and a raccoon and just be fine, probably. The bigger threat than a squirrel or a raccoon, you know what the bigger threat is? The government. The government. Not worried about that. Not that I agree. Rest in peace, Peanut. We love you. Says there's no cure for rabies. Is that right? Yeah, rabies could be pretty serious. I mean, certainly don't want to get rabies either. Sketch Therapy says if the person who reported Peanut confessed ulterior motives, then it's a swatting. No matter what she said on the report. It's why she scrubbed her socials. Yeah, interesting. So I don't know. I don't really know who is behind it. Or I think there are reports on who it is and what it is. I'd actually really like to see the police report and the search warrant. So hopefully that stuff comes out at some point. Ray Stevens says F. Joe Biden would be rolling over in his grave. Rolling over in his grave. Ray Stevens. Probably rolling over in his grave with Peanut. It's not funny. Hey, what is going on? This one came in from Rick Donner. He's talking about this woman who reported her. Interesting. Yeah, I'll wait to see what the official reports say on that one. But thank you for sending that one in, Rick D. Hey, and we had some donos over on Locals. Man, you guys are amazing. Let's see what came in over on Locals. Here we go. We got some memes. Oh, I knew Glocky was going to be here. Glocky's in with the Peanut memes. Yes. Great. Amazing. Thank you, Glocky. Here we go. We got some memes. Knox says, I cannot stop effing hating our government. Talking about Peanut the squirrel. Coffee and COVID. Peanut the squirrel taken out from Coffee and COVID Substack. Yeah, taken out. Eliminated. Karen took him out. You are sheltering a squirrel, are you not? I don't know what kind of accent that was, but that was all I got. You're sheltering a squirrel, are you not? In the floorboards? Under our feet? Point them out to me. Glocky had this one. Avenge me! Peanut, we will. Here's one. Democrats who say there's no reason you need to own a gun. Republicans say you literally just murdered my pet squirrel. We're going to defend ourselves. Here's one from Glocky. Okay, here's one from Coffee Black. Says, here's one. I hope you're all aware that squirrel was in that home illegally. Yeah, so are a third of the residents in New York. Here's one. Questions. What radicalized you? Peanut the squirrel. Murdered at the hands of our government. Yeah, here's one. Hopefully some Democrats will join in. Democrats, not that interested in arresting illegals or rapists or murderers, but if you kill a squirrel, Democrats might be upset about that. It's true. They might actually care. They can come and join us now. Great. Oh, the squirrel finally did it for you. Good. It's okay. We'll take it. I agree. It is outrageous. Peanut's gone, man. I'll be outside. Good luck. He's gone, man. He's gone. All right. War zone out there in New York. This one. Describe your political leanings. This is for Peanut from The Lord of the Rings. It's another fun one. Here's one from Glocky. You swerve to avoid a squirrel. Unknown to you, the squirrel pledges a life debt to you. And in your darkest hour, the squirrel arrives. He does. Here's one. Fight, fight, fight for little Peanut. Save America. We remember you, Peanut. And let's not forget Fred, okay? Fred is also a good dude. Don't forget him. Rest in peace, Fred. Also got taken out. We honor Fred, too. It's too late. They're dead. All right, Glocky says, the government of New York sent 17 armed agents into the home, spent 5 hours going through the home, asked the wife for immigration status, took the pet squirrel and the raccoon, killed them, and the judge signed off on it because they hate you. Glocky shared this one. Oh, yeah, remember this? They sent federal... This is a scene from inside. Remember when they... This was the raid of... What was his name? Elian Gonzalez? Something like that from Cuba. This one. We got this one from Chubby. Says, I'm surprised they're only going to San Joaquin. Oh, thank you for the pronunciation. San Joaquin. I should have known that one. Lots of rural areas out here are red, but it does seem the fix is in for this state, sadly. I'm still going to keep casting my votes and hope it helps, though. Oh, yeah. Everybody in California should vote because we need to have those popular vote numbers, too. Even if you don't think your vote counts, like it does, because we need the popular numbers. Knox says, God bless my state of Texas. Those counties are mostly conservative, but for Harris, which is Houston, that is leaning purple these days. Yeah, Texas. No, you don't want no monitors there. Knox says, Bashar is San Antonio, usually Dem, but showing mad love for Trump these days as Hispanics don't like abortion and are not transing their kids. Yeah, they're not in favor of that stuff, which is good. I think the Democrats have overplayed that. Spud says, you can't spell Putin without peanut. It's a Russian squirrel. That's how the Democrats are Liz Cheney's going to blame it on Russia. Knox says, Sunday? I have no idea what Sunday is. From Knox. Good to see you, Knox. Hey, thanks for the Sunday stream, Robert. I am so manic over all this. I sort of know what you mean, Knox. It's like, there's a lot going on. Even when I'm browsing around thinking about show topics, like, wow, there's a lot. We did a full litany yesterday and a full day today, and I think we got most of the big stuff actually. But we'll end, and there'll be a bunch of more tomorrow, which is how it is. Hey, Glocky says, Joe Rogan just called out Fetterman on his show on illegal immigration and the border bill Fetterman supported. I think I saw that clip. Basically, Fetterman is kind of acknowledging that demographics are changing as a result of immigration. This old guy says, as soon as I hear the word fascist from anyone, I mark them off the list of intelligent people I keep here in my back pocket. Where Raskin was listed is just a hole in paper. Yeah, I don't even think he knows what the definition of a fascist is. He just came up with stuff that he did and then talked about it with Bill Maher. Strange. Like, there are economic principles into these different states as well, like fascist. Anyways, Pookie's Ma says, our ballots are in. Here's a pic of my pickleball Halloween costume. I am ultra mega. Yeah, man, looking good. It's a great outfit. Do you actually play pickleball? I've not played pickleball. I know a lot of people are super into it, and I'm probably not ever going to play it, but I heard it's a lot of fun and people seem to love it. So you look amazing. I'm sure you're awesome at it. And the outfit's outstanding. 10 for 10, all the American flag colors and the socks. Incredible. Love it. Pookie's Ma in the house. Thanks for sharing that. Glad you got those in. NY says, is this expert witness Robert Pape, the guy who testified in the Colorado trial claiming Trump was using dog whistles to incite violence on J6, even though he never called for violence? I don't remember. Maybe. Sounds like him. It was a similar styled guy, but maybe. Rick Donner says, if someone actually died every time they claimed that would happen, the U.S. would have half the population. Yeah, Trump would be responsible for half those deaths, too. It's true. Yeah, here's one from Sergeant GPS. Here's some good memes. Hey, there's Harambe. You're sheltering a squirrel. Are you nuts? Point them to me. It's Peanut and Harambe. Rest in peace. Up in heaven. Taken out. Too early. We got this one, Democrats jumping right up to killing a squirrel. Run, Peanut, run. She's going to put you in a camp, run. We need more government. Here's more government. It's Peanut the squirrel. Oh no. And here's one. What radicalized you? Peanut, the beloved pet squirrel, was euthanized over from, and then Hochul. Hochul's regulation, quarantine camp regulation. Is that a real thing? Did she just do that? Yeah, Spud says, under Hochul, thank you for those, Sergeant GPS, for those good memes. Sergeant, those were great. Thank you for the Harambe one in particular. Spud says, under Hochul, first they came for Peanut. Kathy's probably going to set up quarantine camps, even if we have rabies or not. Rick D, thank you for sharing our friend Amuse, who does great reporting as well. We love our friend Amuse. And so, my friends, we are going to leave it there. We're going to check out, let's see what's going on over. Hey, Sketch Therapy says, please go over the report and the filings on Peanut. Yeah, I want to get my hands on them. I did a cursory search for them yesterday, and I could not find them published anywhere. So, yeah, we have to see how we can get him. He's probably not going to be charged with a crime since they killed his animal. He's like the victim of a crime. So it probably won't be, criminal charges that we get through the ordinary course. I'd like to see if, yeah, I'd love to get them. Thank you, Sketch. Hey, what's up, Sketch? Hey. I don't know what this one says. Repercussions for the animal killers, says King Asphalt. Thank you, King Asphalt. We got Daniel Seanoth says, hey, thank you, Daniel. Says, your quality of investigative journalism is rare gem out here. Thank you for covering the legal war underpinning our constitutional republic. Most people would have no idea about otherwise. Thank you for saying that, Daniel. It's so true. And that's probably one thing that kind of maybe deflates me the most. Is like when I go out there, I talk to people who are often, politically minded. Like a lot of people know about politics to some degree. But unless you are in our world, unless you know and understand what's happening here, it's like you have no understanding of this layer of what's actually happening. Like there's a lot of actual game that's being played in this level. But many people are not playing on this level. They're all up here watching the political ads and the headlines from the mainstream media, all just, back and forth. We're actually getting to the root of what's happening. The bulk of the game is really down here. It's probably 80% down here and 20% up top. Because most people are going to vote how they're going to vote. 2020 was like 30,000 votes. It's a game of margins. So this is where I think the bulk, it's like that image of the iceberg, it's like you see what's on top and then the rest of it is underneath. We're operating down here. And I'll often talk to people and we're just talking about the surface level stuff. Then when I start to crack and explain a little bit more about these things, eyes often will either glaze over or people will go into a state of shock. I had no idea any of that was happening. Oh yeah, and I, talked to them for 10 minutes. What? No idea. So they're waking up. Yeah, they're waking up. So good stuff. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. Ollie says, have you seen Japan's March for President Trump? No, Ollie, but I did an interview on behalf of President Trump that's for a Japanese magazine. And I have the guy's card. When I was out here in in Glendale for Trump's event with Tucker, I stopped. I got asked to do an interview with this guy. He was doing a Japanese magazine for a Japanese magazine. He said, why are you here? I'm here because I'm supporting President Trump. I love Trump. And Elon and RFK. And I did a whole thing. And then he recorded a video of me and why we were there. And he said it was great. He's like, that was great. He's like, this is great. It's perfect. Like, we'll use that. And I said, okay, awesome. Cool. So where's this going to be published? He said, it's on a Japanese magazine. So, okay. He's like, it's pretty big. You get like 2-3 million views over there. I'm like, really? From Japanese? Yeah. Okay, great. said, you guys like Trump over there? Like, yeah, we do. Said, okay, great. Anyways, it was super fun and totally random. I had a ton of fun doing it. I can't wait to see what it looks like. It's going to be hilarious. So, Ollie, thanks for that one. I've not seen it, but shout out to our friends in Japan. JL says, why is nobody talking about Harris's SNL appearance in violation of equal time? I have seen it. I did see that. I don't know. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, it is a big deal. Don't get me wrong. They're partisan hacks. The issue being we have equal time, right? And Harris just showed up on SNL, which means Trump should have an opportunity to show up on SNL. But there are no more Saturdays before the election. So Trump got gypped as usual. And I think that it is kind of standard corruption. I saw an article in The Hill. I know people are talking about it. Hopefully they're sanctioned, and they should also have their license removed, along with CBS for being partisan hacks. Give those airwaves to people who deserve them. Okay, so my friends, thank you so much for sending in those amazing donos and those contributions. We are going to head on over to Locals for our after party. We're going to debrief over there. There are some additional comments and some good friends to say hello to. Before we wrap it up, let's shout out some friends on X, because I think we've got some comments here. It says, someone registered a non-existent person at my house with my last name. You'd probably want to report that to the county recorder or to your state AG. I would look it up on your Secretary of State's website. Someone registered to vote. Wow, interesting. Yeah, I'd report it. I'd report it to your Secretary of State or your county recorder. There's probably an FAQ on some site, whatever state you're in. But curious. Eddie Homan says, do you know that the glitch psych is a ruse to enter the system? Yes, I do. Yeah, says Eddie. Yeah, we do. And that's what we were speculating Jenna Griswold's thing was. All the machines are certified, sealed, delivered, voting on them. She says, oh no, we have to go update the BIOS passwords. Sends her team out. They update whatever they need to update. They reseal the machines again. Don't go through any proper validations and just shove them right back out into service. What's up, Tiff Dog? Good to see you over on X. And my friends, great to see you on X if you're following us over there. Nice to see you over there on X. But we are going to leave it there. We're going over to Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We're going to hang out over there. Tomorrow, we're going to be back, my friends. It's going to be Monday. We'll do a Membos stream in the morning as per usual. Then we'll do our regular show. And then on Tuesday, it's just going to be election all night starting at 3. So 3 my time. Maybe 4 my time. We'll see. Anyways, we'll let you know tomorrow. But tomorrow, back on schedule, regular show schedule for all of our friends out there. We're going to pause for the rest of our Sunday. I hope your Sunday is amazing. And you're restoring your bodies, restoring your minds, and voting! Ah! And making sure everybody you know and love votes, because we care about our friends and family, and we want them to vote. So, my friends, have a beautiful Sunday. We're going over to Locals. We'd love to see you there. Otherwise, tomorrow, we will be back here to get into it again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night and weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.